Hey everyone, welcome back to the District 3 podcast. My name is Irvin.
This is Elena.
And I'm Miggs.
And I'm excited about today's episode. Today we're going to get educated a little bit about what's going on with mass incarceration and the good work that Arkansas Justice Reform Coalition is doing in Arkansas. Joining us today, we have Fernando Garcia, who is a pretrial release advocate for Arkansas Justice Reform Coalition, and Claire Freeman, who is the current community organizer for the 2025 legislative session. Thank you both for joining us today.
Yes, welcome.
How are you?
Thank you. Good. It's so good to be here.
Yeah, good. Thank you for having us.
Of course. And this isn't the first time that AJRC is on the podcast. It's the second time, actually. And there's probably been a lot of growth in the organization. I've seen a lot of new faces in the organization. I believe, Claire, you've been there for a while now, right?
Yeah, I've been involved for a bit, but this is my first time working as an organizer. So it's like step up for me. It's like this is me stepping into the sort of role that like I really would long to do more. How
does the journey for you begin to want to do this kind of work? How do you join AJRC? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, for me, what it looked like, I went to college in Massachusetts, and that's when I started doing work related to the abolition of police and prisons. And then whenever I came back to Arkansas, it was 2020, and I was doing research to see what sort of activism was happening around it, and just started going to Justice Reform Coalition meetings once a month on my laptop, right? We were still very quarantined, and I would take good notes, and I took good enough notes that it was like I became the unofficial note taker for meetings because I was taking notes just to keep on learning. I was out of school and I just wanted to keep on learning.
I always loved that person, by the way.
Yo, I am not that person anymore, but when I was that person, I was a star. It was so good.
I was like, oh, somebody's taking notes? Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Because especially whenever people are talking about the justice system, they're the criminal, it's the criminal legal system. It's not a justice system. Mm-hmm. There are all sorts of technical terms with the courts, with different charges that people throw around. Mm-hmm. And so taking notes was the only way to keep track and know how to start learning.
Are you originally from here?
Yeah, I grew up here in Fayetteville. Okay, and so this is me coming back home and being really proud of some of the activism that had been sprouting up while I was away.
Yeah.
And also starting to be engaged in more activism, right? Because before then I'd just been in high school. And so I just showed up and I kept on showing up to the meetings, and at that time, they were expanding the Fayetteville police station just down the street from where I grew up. And so I was doing research work to see all the different details of how the Fayetteville police is funded and all the other ways that they were expanding. Mm-hmm. And so that's the way that I got involved. And earlier this year, we opened up a office. We moved into an in-person office space, and they needed volunteers to help run the office every day. Mm-hmm. And so I volunteered doing that. And then I was unemployed a few months ago, and they needed somebody to be putting time and energy into these legislative issues. And that role of community organizer, right, somebody who's there to support the development of our kind of political power as a community, people on the ground, not professionals. That's the sort of thing that I have nerded out about for years now. And so it's really exciting to be in this role. And it came about just by showing up and continuing to show up to a particular organization's stuff. That's a thing that, I don't know, I think a lot of people don't realize.
Like right after the election, people became more vocal about, we actually need to have more community organizers and make a way to be heard.
Yeah.
So what are some forms that you are envisioning 2025 looking like as a community organizer?
Yeah, it's a good question. In my role with the Justice Reform Coalition, a big part of what that looks like is knowing that there's a chasm between the understanding of people who have been through the court system, understanding its absurdities, understanding that's one of the absurd ways that the empire functions. And then for people who haven't been through that system, there's this imagined way that courts work, that charges work, that people's time in jail works. And so I'm still learning what it looks like to have wisdom in how we approach people on either side of that chasm and how we approach what that chasm is itself, right? Because organizing amongst people who are already familiar with the absurd ways that the system operates is going to be very different than organizing amongst people who are kind of clueless, and their motivation and their what they strive for and how they are comfortable and how they want to be comfortable. All of that differs between those two kind of groups of people.
I want to take it a step back. I mean, Irvin, I don't know if he's interviewed anybody from your organization before, but just for anybody who hasn't, and newbies like me who's not sure completely what you guys do, what does the AJRC, what do they do? Who are they?
Do you want to take that?
Sure. So we have several programs within AJRC. One of those programs is courtside assistance. So when somebody has court coming up, we know it can be pretty intimidating going to court, especially if you've never gone through the court system before. So we have trained volunteers who can go with you to court to offer moral support. So that's one of those services that we offer. The other one, and it's the project that I work on, the Hummingbird Project. It's a community bail fund. So that bail fund is used to pay 100% of the cash bail for folks who are incarcerated awaiting trial. So they haven't been declared innocent or guilty. So they're just waiting in jail, just waiting for their trial. Yeah. And sometimes your court date will get pushed back, and you can be in there for up to 9 months, a year, just waiting for your trial. And during that time, you lose your job, you lose your housing. A huge strain on families, especially if you're the breadwinner and you're incarcerated, puts a huge strain on that. So we have this community bail fund for folks who qualify to get bailed out through that. That way they're not in jail just awaiting their trial. And after their release, we also provide support for them as well. So we just don't pay their bail. We also offer them transportation to and from court, court reminders. If they need resources as well in the community, we can help them find those resources. We have been able to work with New Beginnings, an organization here that provides bridge housing for unhoused folks, and 2 people who we've bailed out have received housing there as well. So we've been able to connect them with resources. This holiday season, we collected, and volunteers were very helpful in this as well, in collecting and creating Christmas cards, holiday cards as well for people who are incarcerated. So they were able to get Christmas cards. Some were written by their families, their kids as well. So they were able to get Christmas cards from their family and their kids as well. So those are some of the resources that we offer.
And people don't understand how intimidating the whole process can be, especially if they're unfamiliar with it. I've had people call the newsroom asking for help. You know, like, I don't know what to do. You know, they're innocent. And I'm like, well, have you reached out? Do you know his court date? You know, things like that. And people don't know where to find that information sometimes, you know. And it's also, I feel like people are, the media, you know, from movies to, you know, video games to anything, portray what it's like to be arrested, right? And like what that process looks like, and it's different in every state. And I think with like recent things like Biden pardoning people who were on death row, I was really shocked to see people were like these people deserve to die. And I was like, do you not know how messed up the justice system is? And the fact that this person's DNA wasn't even in that murder scene, and it came out 2 years later after they're executed. You know, it's like.
And if you wanted to look at it from like economic standpoint, which we shouldn't, right? We should always look at it from a moral standpoint. But in economic standpoint, it's more expensive to put someone on a death penalty than it is to have them like in jail for the rest of their life.
Yeah, for life.
You know?
Yeah.
But the death penalty is wrong. It's something that I'm strictly super strong against it. But kind of like what you said, sometimes people don't even know the difference between a conviction and just someone getting arrested and being in jail. They think that like once someone's mugshot is out that they're guilty. Like I'm surprised. I'm very surprised, even in those 4 years that I did that work with the Bell Project, that people the way that people view incarceration is so very one-sided, and also the way that people view people that are constantly in the system, like they judge them before they know, like, why are they in the system? Is it because the cops are following them and see that they're housing insecure and they end up in jail constantly because of that? Is it because they lack mental health resources and they don't know where to go and no one's supporting them? And something even like a FTA, like when you miss court, sometimes someone doesn't have a phone. Sometimes someone doesn't have a transportation to the Washington County Courthouse. It is intimidating sometimes to walk into the Washington County Courthouse, having to go through the security with the guard that's there, and then even know what place in the building to go for your court. Is it on the 6th floor? Is it on the 7th floor? I would get confused when I would go with my clients up there. I'd be like, wait, is your court up here or is it up there? And then we'd be kind of like trying to navigate and figure out where our client's supposed to be. Us who are educated on the system and are educated on the Washington County Courthouse, imagine what just someone that went through the system, how difficult it is for them and how intimidating it is for them.
Yeah.
And like that's what's relevant every single day. Like every single day that the system operates, like those non-understandings or like the ways that there just is not a solid public understanding for how to navigate the system. It's relevant every single day. You know, like every day for however many years.
What do y'all see are like some of the biggest barriers that the people? I guess this would be specific for you, Fernando, because this is like what you're doing with the Hummingbird Project. What are some of the barriers that you see in your weekly job of people that are trying to navigate the system that are just like roadblocks for them in trying to get their cases closed?
Well, we have built out unhoused folks, and just being unhoused is a huge strain on you. So you're concerned about a lot of things. So maybe your next court date is not what's on the top of your mind when you're hungry or when you don't have a place to live. When it's really cold outside, that's not on the top of your mind. So court reminders have really been helpful as well, and we've been able to provide phones for folks as well. Because court reminders are very helpful. So one of those barriers is poverty. Cash bail is a class issue. The rich can pay bail, but
Isn't that
poor
crazy,
folks
though?
and working class folks can't pay bail.
Isn't that crazy though? That like, if you're wealthy, you can get out and you can go and get a lawyer and
You can get that record expunged real fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're not wealthy, you're trapped in there.
Yeah.
Literally before you're convicted, before they found out if you're innocent or guilty, you're in jail. You're imprisoned. You know, your freedom has been taken away from you. You're away from your family. You might lose your job. And you haven't even been convicted yet.
Yeah.
I feel like unless most people that are not doing this kind of work don't even think about that. And sometimes they're like, why are there these nonprofits that are bailing people out for free? It's like, no, like it should be this way. People should be able to just, if they get arrested, get out and then come back with, if you have an attorney or a public defender, but things haven't changed yet, which I'm guessing it's one of y'all's goals as an organization to work on.
Yeah, it is.
Like,
and sorry
no,
to cut you off.
You're fine.
We keep on cutting each other off, my bad.
But there have been reforms in some places, like Illinois has eliminated cash bail, and people are still going back to court. Why they cite cash bail is to make sure you go back to court or you lose that money. But you can look at states like Illinois, New Jersey, I believe as well, did some bail reform, and the people who have been released without bail, they show up to court. It's over 90%. It's different in different states, but it's at least 90% or more of the people who are getting bailed out without having to pay or getting cited out, OR'd, released on own recognizance. They're returning to court. So why are they putting this cash bail on folks when it's not really necessary? It doesn't increase safety as well. Some people argue, well, they did this, so if we release them, the community is going to be unsafe. And data shows the opposite. And actually, having them jailed, in prison or incarcerated while they're waiting trial, the longer they're incarcerated there, the more likely they're actually to commit offense again, because they're losing their jobs, they're losing housing, they're put in a tough spot.
Yeah.
And
if you don't have like a year of prior work, people don't want to hire you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or more, you know.
Then if you end up in prison, then you have difficulty finding a place to rent, and then finding you can only apply for specific jobs because some people don't take formerly incarcerated. It's a down. I know I'm preaching to choir here, but to the people that are listening, it's a downward spiral.
Yeah.
Incarceration is.
Yeah. No, and you've done this work as well too, so you have this experience and
it's taught
well.
me like even more patience, and I'm able to explain to people, you know, because, for example, with Latinos, sometimes you'll see a post on Facebook that will have a housing insecure person in the corner, right? And then they'll have an iPhone. They're using an iPhone. And then someone will post a picture of this housing insecure person on social media and say, if this person's housing insecure, why do they have an iPhone? I'm like, because they need to get a job, because they maybe they have a court date and they need to know, you know, when that court date is. They just speak to their public defender. They just speak to their family. And it's things that you don't think about unless you're in the work, you know, unless you're educating people about it. So that's one of the things that taught me is.
And what iPhone are we talking about? Is it a 16 or no?
I don't even have the 16.
It was probably like an 8, you know?
I think you had a question, Miggs, but I interrupted.
No, it wasn't a question, and I kind of missed my my thing there. But I just wanted to say about like the news earlier about how, you know, somebody gets arrested, and if it's kind of a big deal or if it can make any kind of headway, they put it on the news, they put their mugshot up. But then if this person gets acquitted or it's innocent, they never tell you in the news, hey, by the way, this guy that we told you did this, it's actually we were wrong, you know? So to anybody else, it just looks like you're this person, even though they got it wrong.
Well, even like there's like Instagrams called like Fable mugshots. I'm not sure if y'all seen those where they post people's mugshots, and I'm like, yo, this is not even like I get you're doing this.
Dude, I have
and
to
then
tell,
you can sue them though. Like that's the whole point,
Yeah.
and that's why they don't make an update because like at that point it's kind of like defamation. Like if you are found innocent or if things get dropped, then you reach out to the news and you tell them, hey, these are my court records. Take that story off, because then at that point you just want your mugshot and everything off. So like those people who get their mugshots on those Instagrams, they could take it off. And it's hard for the news too because all that we get is the police's point of view of whatever happened. And we can't listen to anything until the court is taking place, which could be a year, 3 years, you know, down the road.
well, which but at that point everybody in the news station has flipped.
Exactly.
There's a whole new employees.
I'll probably reach
Don't
out.
forget.
I'd reach out to the news station and be like, can you put it on a news story and tell people that I'm innocent in this case? But not everybody has the ability or has the connections or feels comfortable even approaching the news.
I mean,
that,
like even like I have friends or a friend, you know, sometimes like they'll post somebody that you know is like mugshot up, like, oh, look who's in fucking jail, and you're like, dude, fucking take that shit down. How would you feel? If you got
I had like on my Facebook the other day, I had 2 cousins that were like trolling each other, and this guy was actually went into the Washington County Jail, but he posted the mugshot. He was like, oh, this is my cousin who forgot to turn in a library book at the Springdale Public Library, so he got arrested. I'm like, I get what you're trying to do, but you're hurting the cause by doing this. You're not helping out. I know, I get it's funny, but this doesn't look good on your cousin putting their mugshot out there. So on to more serious business though. Let's talk about those bills that AJRC has been either. I'm not sure if y'all have been authoring those, or is it something where you're working with other organizations or lawyers? But can you talk about those 3 bills?
Yeah. So we are Arkansas Justice Reform Coalition. We're based up here in Northwest Arkansas, and so in the landscape of all the people and all the groups doing this work in Arkansas, there's an ecosystem of us. And so as a Justice Reform Coalition, there are 3 issues that we're focusing on for the 2025 legislative session. First is about cash bail. It would be eliminating the use of cash bail on most misdemeanors, where currently cash bail is a common practice for all misdemeanors. The second one is about the fines and fees that are imposed on somebody who's going through the juvenile justice system. And so whenever a youth is going through the court system, fines and fees just stack up and further and just cause more financial stress on their families. These are kids, you know, these are youth. And then the third issue is about drug paraphernalia charges. And so a lot of people don't know that possession of drug paraphernalia is its own charge, separate from possession of a controlled substance or delivery of a controlled substance. And drug paraphernalia charges are currently more severe than a DWI charge, right? And so we're working on reducing the severity of those drug paraphernalia charges.
So this means like if I get pulled over in my car, it smells like weed.
That's
so now they have a probable cause to search my car, and they find even an apple that looks like it could be used for me to smoke weed out of. That could be a drug paraphernalia charge.
100%. 100%. And what happens commonly is that whether it's a situation like that and they can search your car. And literally in Arkansas State Code, some things that are listed, like under the definition of drug paraphernalia, balloons, containers, a blender, a scale, right? An envelope, and so some of these, like, it's easier to come to mind, like how they're more associated with drug use. And some of them are like absurd, and these are written into the code. And so then but it also extends beyond that. Like you're saying, if there was an apple in your car that looked like somebody had been smoking weed out of it, then there's enough, the police have enough discretion for that to be used as a drug paraphernalia charge against you.
And Apple's not on there, like
no.
Elena mentioned.
I know, maybe we should. We got to watch out for that in the 2027 session. They're going to try to add an Apple onto the.
You're a little too specific with that, Elena.
As I've been told, if you have an apple in your car, to throw it out.
Yeah, and so
it can be used as drug paraphernalia.
Yeah, I've been talking to people from across Arkansas who have gotten drug paraphernalia charges, and literally some of the things that they've mentioned, getting a felony charge for having 2 baggies in the bottom of a purse, or like giving their friend a ride, and so their friend's bags are in the back, and in their bag is a scale that they were using to measure the weight of some controlled substance, and that landing somebody a felony for giving their friend a ride. Having a broken glass pipe in the back seat of the car. Not even something that they could have been using during that time of the arrest, but then getting charged with this drug paraphernalia charge. So it's
the paraphernalia charge goes away if you have actual drugs. Right?
No, the thing is, it gets stacked.
Yeah,
That's the issue. One of the things in terms of people who haven't been through the court system that they don't understand is how many charges lead to, I'm blanking on a plea deal, right? So much is resolved through plea deals rather than through like a full court hearing. And so with the plea deal, it's just all the different charges that you could get pile up and make it harder and harder to have a plea deal that's in your favor, right?
Now, it is one thing for a police officer to pull you over and charge you with something, and then the court system to drop some of the things. The court system can then formally give you, like, no, we'll get rid of these and stuff to hopefully so you could take a plea deal.
Now, I don't know if I'm going to keep this on the podcast because I don't want to put my shit on blast, but maybe I will. I don't know. But I mean, usually, like I said, usually paraphernalia charge gets dropped if there's anything else of matter in your tickets. And usually, like, I've never been charged with like marijuana even. And every time for like the first 5 years I moved to Arkansas, every time they pulled me over, I had marijuana in the car. Never, ever have I ever been charged with a marijuana charge.
Now, are you saying like the police officer found the marijuana on you too?
Yeah. I rolled down the windows.
and why do you think what's your understanding of why things didn't pan out to be like that for you?
I thought it was just like the cop being cool, or Fayetteville in particular being cooler than the other ones. I don't know.
And that's a great point. Like, it is all at the police's discretion, and that's the way that police operate in our society, right? They have the power to use their discretion.
Well, I mean, it also might be my attitude being a good attitude instead of like a fuck you attitude.
That's right. Because another thing that I've learned from talking to people who have had these charges or had several different instances of drug paraphernalia charges is whenever somebody becomes known to the local police or to the county or to the county sheriff's department as a drug user or as somebody who sometimes deals, they get clapped down on, where other people who they don't associate with that might just have a friendly interaction and let you go. They say, oh, we don't really care. Like, you can keep on minding your own business. But as soon as it's somebody that they kind of like a face and a name that they have associated with what they define as criminal behavior, that's usually somebody who's going to be poor and using drugs to cope and dealing drugs to make money, or somebody who's unhoused and so they're around and public in a lot of ways. So that's such a huge factor in this,
especially in that area over there by like where the Seven Hills Center is at. Like, I mean, cops know that people are walking around those areas, and they know the people that have drug issues or mental health issues. And a lot of the times, in my work, I would see they would be the targets. They would end up for the most petty charges back at the Washington County Jail, and we would work with them, because sometimes they were our clients. And unfortunately, just this state in general and other states around the country, they just love to slash mental health resources. That crisis center gets shut down every 2 years or so, that one good resource that we have for
That's
people
right.
in case they're going through a certain situation. And then, with mental health institutions as well. And I'm preaching to y'all, to the choir when I talk about this, but I'm saying this for the people that are listening. The mental health resources that we have here are badly funded. People that work there don't get paid enough, which ends up getting the people that go there for treatment end up not getting the best treatment, unfortunately. And it's just very unfortunate that, there's so much resources that could possibly come into the state, but they get directed to other organizations or
like
to
building a new prison.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
right.
a good segue to that. So
right.
Franklin County is not the people of Franklin County, because they're mad about that. Rightfully so. But, people from Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders' administration, they've been trying to get this proposal passed for a new, which I think the news recently said, $1 billion prison. And this is without giving a heads up to the people from Franklin County. They've had some public meetings, I think maybe one or two, and the people showed up really mad because they never had a heads up, even though this was already by the time they had that big one meeting, there was 90 days of planning ahead of time that people were not aware of about this jail. And I think in the past few months, they've been saying that the jail was going to cost around $400 million, around that range. But now recently on the news, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that, Claire, you mentioned it a little bit off air, on where that is at right now, and what is AJRC's involvement in battling that.
Yeah, well, I'll talk about the issue of the cost projections.
Okay.
So, there's been reporting from statewide newspapers about this issue. It's the community organizers or people who are experts on the ground in Franklin County who are coming up with calculations that there's no way that this project is going to cost under $1 billion for the state to construct. The representatives of the state administration don't counter that. Instead, they say that the current projection that they have of that 300 or 400 million is an initial projection. They don't want to overproject the amount because that would lead contractors to then fill that full cost of it. And so they're just they know that it's going to be expensive. And the people are the ones who have to put together a reasonable calculation of how expensive it's going to be. They know it's going to be more expensive than that $300 or $400 price tag on it. And then for the bureaucratic reasons of not wanting to let the people know officially how expensive it's really going to cost our taxpayers, and then B, because of the contractor bidding process, as if you budgeted as so much, then contractors are going to bid that much. Those are the issues going on with that. So it's thanks to people who are not part of the government administration doing the research and calculating what construction costs are like, what operation costs are like, that we know that it's going to end up costing more like $1 or $1.5 billion than the $300 or $400 million that the governor's administration is saying publicly.
And this is going to be over 800 acres of property in Franklin County that people were not aware of. A lot of these people are farmers, have had generations live through, that property, and it's going to be a 3,000 bed prison, which is pretty major. Most prisons are typically in southern Arkansas, so northwest Arkansas and the River Valley typically can turn a blind eye to a lot of those, as they're kind of closer to oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the one that's in Pine Bluff, close to Pine Bluff, right? It's one of the major ones.
Mount Clemens?
Yeah.
There was also on the news about some emails being leaked. I'm not sure if y'all saw that there was some people that are trying to get this prison opened up in Franklin County that were talking bad about the residents of Franklin County in those emails, and they were leaked because there was a FOIA request done on those emails. And I'm like, man, so many people are trying to do everything behind the scenes without talking to. Why are people scared of having the town hall and bringing this up to the citizens? Let them let them get have some feedback and voice their opinion. But they're trying to slide this through now. now that they're saying that it might be like about over $1 billion, I think it's going to become even a bigger deal. And hopefully, it doesn't go through.
I mean, I don't think anyone wants a prison in their town. I mean, it's not like the inmates are running around free around the whole town, getting Starbucks and stuff. But I mean, you just don't want that in your town. But
I think, not even that, Miggs. I also think that like there's not a reason to create another prison. We should work on solutions to like free people up of these county jails. There's overcrowdedness happening, in Washington County jails and other jails around the state, and this can be something like, if there was more effective policy where we weren't constantly arresting people for no dang reason, we wouldn't have these overcrowded jails.
You paid your fine late, you're going to jail. By the way, you don't have a place to slip, so just grab a mat and put it on the floor somewhere.
It's
going back, it's still a class issue.
No.
Those $1 billion, how much can go into providing resources for people in need?
Yeah.
And again, you said the failure to pay fees, like that can land you in jail as well. That's also a class issue. And if
trying to reschedule your court date, they're like, no, you've already scheduled. Excuse me, I'm a busy person, bro. Like I'm a human being. Like, I'm sorry.
You want me to pay for this? I have to go to my job, which is.
And then a lot of these poultry factories here in Northwest Arkansas, like if someone gets arrested and works for a poultry factory and they have to work during the morning, if you miss a day of work, they put points on you. And then eventually, if you get enough points, you get fired. So you can't just miss whenever the court wants you to go to court. So sometimes you have to reschedule. And it is difficult to do it, to be able to even reach your public defender sometimes.
And some of those poultry plants also use prison labor. And going back into that, capitalism loves to exploit labor. The cheaper you can pay your workers, the more your profits are. And if we look back at the 13th Amendment, slavery was never eliminated in the U.S. Because it makes an exception. If you commit a crime, if you're convicted of a crime, you can be exploited for slave labor, and that's what prisons are doing here in Arkansas, and not just in Arkansas, throughout the whole country. So going back into that, it's also a thing about exploiting labor. And who's the most vulnerable population in our community that they're going to be locking up and exploiting? It's going to be poor people. It's going to be black folks, brown folks, immigrant folks, which I think we're going to see an increase of more immigrant labor exploited through the prison systems with this new administration that's coming in. So we also got to look at it at that point. Why are these government officials wanting to create more prisons? That's just because they're there to serve capitalism.
I think you don't even have to look at the future. I mean, whenever the tornado struck back in May of 2024, Benton County clearly posted pictures of their inmates going out and cleaning up tornado damage. I mean, that's one way to exploit people who are in the system.
Yeah.
But I think there's also an issue to be made about the increase of population in Benton County and the fact that the jail system isn't big enough to fit some of the people that they are incarcerating just for that temporary time. Now there's people who get sick because there's 4 people in a 2-bed, jail cell. And there's also HVAC system problems and not enough doctors. So it's kind of like when there is an increase, how do you accommodate for that? There are some problems that do have to be resolved. And also, once you put that strain on a jail system, you also have overworked police officers, overworked corrections people, and there's other problems. How does someone end up killing themselves in Benton County and Sebastian County, which has happened in the past couple years, when there should be doing checks on someone who has suicidal ideations, and they're not doing that.
We're also looking into conditions that will drive people to that.
Yeah.
The conditions in jails and prisons.
Which goes back to lack of mental health resources in our communities and getting slashed by people in power, which is really unfortunate. But for the work that y'all are doing, how can people support the work? For example, we'll start with the Hummingbird. How can people donate to that program, and how can they donate?
They can donate. We do have some links, and I can share with you as well if you can post those. People can donate. We are really looking for donations. That way we can bail more folks out. We were able to get some folks home, 2 moms for the holidays. So that's really great. But we wish we could have reunited more families for the holidays during that time. So we really ask folks to donate. or get involved as well. If they can volunteer to offer folks rides to court, that's something that folks can help with as well.
How do they get in contact with y'all if they want to do that?
They can email us or contact us. I can give my work phone number. It's 479-274-0950, and they'll ring to my phone directly. So if folks are interested in volunteering for the Hummingbird Project or other AJRC programs, they can get in contact with me or other folks at AJRC.
And on social media, Arkansas Justice Reform Coalition is under Arkansas Justice Now. On Instagram, I'm guessing on Facebook, Arkansas Justice Reform Coalition.
Yeah.
And people can reach out to you all through there as well if they want to either work with you, support you, show up to courts to help support people, because that goes a long way, right? And I've noticed that whenever like my old clients would go to court, they'd feel good and less intimidated when someone was there supporting them and was there just in general in the courtroom. So it goes a long way. So if you're listening, if you got free time, if you're retired, like please volunteer with Arkansas Justice Reform Coalition. Any other events that y'all would like to talk about, that y'all would like to mention, that y'all have coming up maybe?
Yeah.
Want to mention
I don't know when y'all broadcast this. This might be too soon, but it's still an exciting event. I think it's an exciting step in our organizing in Northwest Arkansas. On January 4th, we're doing a collaborative event with the Library Vintage, with Glass Smoke Boutique, and with Razzo Studios. And it's called Outside the Lines. It's going to be focused on the issue of drug paraphernalia charges. And so we're going to do some education about the current law around drug paraphernalia possession, introduce what we're focusing on in terms of the reform that we're wanting to pass in 2025. Then we're going to move over to the Glass Smoke Boutique, talk about people's experiences. People are going to share some of the experiences that they've had with being arrested or caught with drug paraphernalia, and then talk about if you are somebody who is going to have drug paraphernalia or use controlled substances, how to protect yourself from the police. And then we're going to move down to the Community Art Wall, which is this pump house on Poplar Street in Fayetteville. And Razzo Studios is going to lead us through creating a big piece of public art about the issue of drug paraphernalia. And so to like these are the sorts of events that really excite me. That it's connecting different entities across our community. Glass Smoke Boutique and the Library Vintage are right next door to each other and have worked together before. And so that's the sort of thing that is the basis of my hope for the future, is that we can strengthen our connections with each other to really leverage the power that we have as people that hasn't been leveraged already, to come up with like creative new ways to come together and have fun, creative new ways to come together and learn. And we know we all have had experiences of how much of an impact it is to meet the right person who has a shared interest with you and can then start a project like y'all's podcast, can then start an organization like the Justice Reform Coalition. You know, it's those connections that create the ground from which a lot of great things can grow. And so, yeah, I'm excited about Outside the Lines. If you're hearing this podcast and you're interested in doing something like this about any of the three issues that we're focusing on in the legislative session, you can, again, find us on social media. We're really good at posting about the events that we have going on. And then you can email me. My name's Claire, Claire, at arjusticereform.org. Can
people write like public comments on the bill once it goes through in the Arkansas government?
Anybody who has had experiences with the issues that we're focusing on in our bill, or as a professional who works in public health or poverty issues, we'd really appreciate talking with you, seeing if we can get you to write something that we could read to the legislators, seeing if we could support you coming down to Little Rock with us to testify in front of the committees who are deciding whether or not these bills even make it to a full vote. And then for everyday people who, like all of us, are being represented by our government officials, once we know what these bills' official titles and bill numbers are going to be, we're going to put out calls for us to just call our representatives, pile up the pink slips to show how much public support or public opposition there are to certain bills that are going to make a big impact on how our criminal legal system works.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Claire. Fernando, thank you all for being here. If you're listening, make sure you follow Arkansas Justice Reform Coalition on Facebook, on Instagram. Honestly, they do the best job of any nonprofit I've seen in the state of just keeping people educated. I don't know how many posts y'all do a week, but y'all do a good amount of really good posts that keep people informed and just let people know what's going on with mass incarceration in Arkansas. So thank you both for your work. But for everybody listening, that was the end of the episode this week. We had Claire and Fernando from Arkansas Justice Reform Coalition join us. My name is Irvin.
This is Elena.
And Miggs.
And we're signing off.